The distances x meter traveled to school by 140 children were recorded, and the results are summarized in the table below. And we are to draw a cumulative frequency graph to represent these results. And we know that for a cumulative frequency graph, the distance is going to be on the x-axis and the cumulative frequency is going to be on the y-axis. Now let's look for the highest value of distance, so that's 1600. All right, I'm just going to scale it first. So I'm drawing here freehand, but make sure you guys draw it with a scale. So this is the distance in meters. And we have it till 1600. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, we can have it till right here. So that's going to be 200, 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1400, and this is going to be 1600. All right, now let's look at the cumulative frequency. The highest value is 140. So let's first scale it as well. Okay, this is going to be quite difficult. So I'm kind of drawing it roughly just to give you guys an idea, but make sure to use a scale. All right, now this is going to be the cumulative frequency. And we have the highest value of 140. So if you were to scale it, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, so this can be 20, 40, that's going to be 60, 80, 100, 120, and 140. Now we just need to plot the values. So x less or equal to 200, so that's 16. So this is going to be on this side, and we need to plot the value of 16. So this is going to be 10, that's 12, 14, this is going to be 16. All right, so that's this point right here. Let's look for the next point. That is x less or equal to 300, that's the value of 46. So 300 is going to be right here. And we need the value to be less than 46. If this is 40, this is 42, 44, 46 right there. This is the second point. Let's look for the third one. That's x is less or equal to 500. It has a value of 88. So 500 is going to be right here. And this has the value of 88. So that's going to be 90 right here, which means that this value is going to be 88. All right, so the corresponding point is right here. So this is the third point. Let's look for the fourth one. That is less or equal to 900, and we have the cumulative frequency of 122. So 900 is going to be right here. And we have the value 122. So that's 120, which means that 122 is right there. So I guess this point is going to be 900, yes. So that's the point. Now that's x less or equal to 1200, and it has a cumulative frequency of 134. So 1200 is right there. We already have it. And we need the cumulative frequency of 134. So this is going to be 130, that's 132, that's 134. Now this point is going to be right here. Yes. So the last one is x less or equal to 1600, and that's the value of 140. So we know that 1600 was at the end, and we have 140 to be right here. So that's this point. Now let's draw a freehand curve. So we draw the axis with a scale, but whenever we're drawing a cumulative frequency, make sure you draw it freehand. So this is going to be something like this. So we just keep joining the dots. Alright, that concludes the first part. Now we will use our graph in order to estimate the interquartile range. So interquartile range is just going to be the upper quartile Q3 minus the lower quartile Q1. In order to figure out Q3 and Q1, we're going to use the percentile method. So if we were to list the values, there's going to be the lowest one and the highest one. In between, that's going to be the median. And in between the lowest and the median, that's going to be the lower quartile. And in between the median and the highest value, that's going to be the upper quartile. So this is going to be 0%, that's 25%, that's 50%, that's 75%, and that is 100%. So if we're using the percentile method, we're going to figure out the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile in order to figure out the lower quartile and the upper quartile. Let's look at the lower quartile first. So that's Q1, right? For Q1, the 25% of the total values, which is 140. So that's going to be 35. So this is the cumulative frequency part, and we need to figure out the corresponding distance. So let's look for the value of 35 first. So right here, that's going to be 30. So this is 36 and that's 34. So that's in between. So the corresponding point on the curve is right here. This is the value. So that's 300 and that's 220, 230. So this value is going to be 260. So the value of lower quartile Q1 is going to be 260. Let's repeat the same process for the upper quartile. That's going to be 75% of the total value of 140, which is 105. So that's the cumulative frequency. We need to figure out the corresponding distance. So 100 is right here, which means that this is 102, this is 104, this is 106. So in between, there's going to be 105. So let's look at the corresponding point on the cumulative frequency curve. So that's the point right there, which is in between 600 and 800. So that's going to be 700, which will be our upper quartile, Q3. Now the interquartile range is just going to be the difference. So that's 700 minus 260, which gives the value of 440. Now for the third part, we need to figure out the estimates of the mean and the standard deviation of the distances. All right, for the distance, we are given the cumulative range. So this is going to be the cumulative range. First part, that's less or equal to 200. For the second part, that was less than 300. For the third part, that was less than 500. Then that was less than 900. Less than 1200, and then less than 1600. Alright, if we were to write it down as the range value, that's going to be 0 to 200, 200 to 300, 300 to 500, 500 to 900, 900 to 1200, and then 1200 to 1600. So these are the distances range. Right? All right, let's write down the mid value. So if we're looking at the range of A to B, then the mid value is just going to be A plus B by 2. So for this case, that's going to be 0 plus 200 by 2, that's going to be 100. For the second case, that's 200 plus 300 by 2, that's 250. For the third case, that's going to be 300 plus 500 by 2, which is going to be 400. For this case, that's 500 plus 900 divided by 2, which is 700. For this case, that's going to be 900 plus 1200 divided by 2, which is going to be 1050. And for the last case, that's going to be 1200 plus 1600 divided by 2, which is going to be 1400. Now let's list down the corresponding cumulative frequency values. That's going to be 16, 46, 88, 122, 134, and 140. But we only need the actual frequency. So for the first case, that's going to be 16. For the second case, that's going to be the difference. So 46 minus 16, which is going to be 30. For the third case, that's going to be 88 minus 46, which is going to be 42. For this, that's going to be 122 minus 88, which is going to be 34. For this case, that's going to be 134 minus 122, which is 12. And for the last case, that's going to be 140 minus 134, which is going to be 6. All right, now let's figure out the mean value. So mean value is just going to be summation fm divided by summation f. So this is just going to be the sum of frequency into the mid values. So this is going to be 100 into 16 plus 250 into 30 plus 400 into 42 plus 700 into 34 plus 1050 into 12 plus 1400 into 6 divided by the total frequency. So we can see that the total frequency is going to be 140. Alright, this gives us the mean value of 505. And we also need to figure out the standard deviation. So in order to figure out the standard deviation, I'm going to figure out the variance first. So this is going to be summation fm squared divided by summation f minus the mean squared. So let's substitute the values. That's going to be 100 square into 16 plus 250 square into 30 plus 400 square into 42 plus 700 square into 34 plus 1050 square into 12 plus 1400 square into 6 divided by summation f, which has the value 140, but we also need to deduct the mean squared. So that's going to be 505 squared. So this gives us the total value of 105,010.7143. But what we actually need to find is the variance. So let's do it on the additional page. So this is question 7, part C. So we're looking at the standard deviation, which is going to be root under variance. And we already have the value for the variance is 105,010.7143. Now this gives us the value of the standard deviation at 324.054. Alright, this concludes the question number 7, and this brings us to the end of this set. If you found this video useful, make sure you hit the like button, make sure to leave a comment below, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon in order to view more of these contents in the future. Thank you.